on this special occasion. Tara.
మాణిక్యవీణాముపలాళయంది మదాలస మంజుళ వాగ్విలాస మహేంద్ర నీలతి నీలద్వితి కోమలాంగి మాదంగ కన్యా మనసా స్వరామి మాదంగ కన్యా మనసా స్వరామి.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Mr. K. Jayakumar, Mr. A. M. Bashir, other esteemed dignitaries and all the distinguished individuals gathered here today. I'm Lakshmi Nambiar and I run 23'RD Art Gallery in Hyderabad and I will be your MC this evening. Today we are gathered here to celebrate the launch of Unfinished Business, a collection of short stories by Jaideep Krishnan, or as we affectionately call him Jay. When he's not busy being an author, tech entrepreneur, and the CEO of a startup accelerator, he moonlights as my husband. Currently, he's living it up in Canada. The stories from Unfinished Business aren't just words on a page. They are snippets of Jay's life from before and after our marriage. They reflect his journey, his struggles, his triumphs, and the profound lessons that have shaped him. What makes this moment even more special is the involvement of our daughter, Tamara Nambiar, who has done all the illustrations in the book. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Ms. Sumita Datta Shom, the publisher at ADISAKRIT, to deliver the welcome speech. ADISAKRIT has published works of prose, poetry, and drama in print and ebooks by celebrated award-winning authors as well as debutantes. Sumita herself writes fiction, poetry, and personal essays under the pen name Sumita Datta Shom. Over to you, Sumita.
I am immensely privileged and honored to stand before you and welcome Shri A. M. Bashir to chair this august occasion where our nation's beloved MP, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, along with the great poet, lyricist and painter Shri K. Jayakumar, will launch young Jaideep Krishnan's debut book of fiction, Unfinished Business and Other Stories. As the publisher, I am extremely happy to extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests and you, the erudite people that make the state a center of literature and culture.
Next, we are honored to have Mr. A. M. Bashir, Secretary to the Kerala Legislative Assembly, deliver the presidential address. Mr. Bashir is a prolific writer. He's an award-winning novelist in Malayalam and English. His most recent novel, Themis, is based on a true story of a well-publicized crime and the trials that followed. He also belongs to the Kerala Judicial Service. Over to you, Mr. Bashir.
Respected Member of Parliament, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, respected wife, Mr. K. Jayakumar, the novelist, and Madam, Mr. Sir, wife, and other dignitaries. I got this book 5 days ago. But ഇവിടെ വന്നപ്പം Shashi Tharoor wanted to leave early and Jayakumar sir also wanted to leave very early. So I just will spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes just to speak out the book. I have gone through the book completely. Firstly, I would like to express my views on the cover page. ഈ കവർ തയ്യാറാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്നത് നൺ അതർ ദാൻ ദി ഡോട്ടർ ഓഫ് നോവൽ. ഇത് കണ്ടിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്താ തോന്നുന്നത്? ഒരു പൊതിക്കാത്ത തേങ്ങയാണോ അതോ പൊതിച്ചിട്ട് പരാജയപ്പെട്ട തേങ്ങയാണോ? അതായത് അൺഫിനിഷ്ഡ് വർക്കാണ്. ഇതിൽ ഒരു ഗ്ലോബ് ഉണ്ട്. ഒരു ഗ്ലോബ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അവിടെ ഉള്ളതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാനത് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഇത് ആക്ച്വലി ഗ്ലോബ്. അതിൻ്റെ മുകളിൽ ഒരു ഇതുണ്ട്. ഇതിൽ പിന്നെ പക്ഷികൾ വന്നിരിക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കാണാം. പിന്നെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അതിൽ ഞാനൊരു ആക്ഷൻ കാണിക്കാം. ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു 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 സംഭവം ഉണ്ട്. അതിൽ ക്യാരിയിങ് ദി ഹെഡ് അത് സംഭവമുണ്ട്. ഇതെല്ലാം കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഈ വരച്ച ആൾ കാണാത്തൊരു സാധനം പറയാം. ഈ ബുക്ക് തിരിച്ചു പിടിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അത് നോട്ടീസും കണ്ടിട്ടില്ല. വരയ്ക്കുന്ന ആൾ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചല്ല. ഇത് തിരിച്ചു പിടിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതിലൊരു നടുവിലൊരു ചെറിയൊരു വൃത്തമുണ്ട്. അതൊരു രണ്ട് കണ്ണും ഒരു വയസ്സായ ഒരു സ്ത്രീ. അതൊരു മത്സ്യകന്യകയുടെ പോലെ താഴേക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ വരുന്നു. അതിൽ കൈകൾ താഴേക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ വരും. അത് ഒരു ബ്ലേഡ് വിഷനാണ്. അല്ല അങ്ങനെ ഉദ്ദേശമൊന്നും അറിയില്ല. പിന്നെ ഹാവ് യു ഡ്രോൺ മദർ തെരേസ? Mother Teresa is also there. In the page number 130. Page number 130. അങ്ങോട്ട് നടന്നു പോവുക. അതേസമയം ഗാന്ധിജിയുണ്ട്. ഗാന്ധിജിയെ ലെഫ്റ്റ് സൈഡിൽ ഈ ഭാഗം 130 ഈ തലയിൽ ജോമാ സാർ കണ്ടോ? ഈ തലയിൽ ഇത് മാത്രം എടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഈ ഷോൾഡർ എടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഗാന്ധിജിയായി. അങ്ങോട്ട് പോകുന്ന ആളെ എടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ മദർ തെരേസ. അപ്പോൾ ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് ഇതിലെ ഒരു ഇതെനിക്ക് കാണാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു കാര്യം. So these are all the things very important about the book, and I will just point out some points, some paragraphs. I will read it. The page number 23. This is speaking about love. Very wonderful line. The train is running about 10 minutes late. As I see the long beam of light from the approaching train that will rescue me from the sub-zero temperature tonight, I notice a petty Indian girl, all bundled up, dragging her suitcase on the opposite platform. The train is now about 100 yards away. As I stare at this woman, I notice a streak of familiarity about her face. I notice she is also staring at me. Almost instantaneously, I shouted her name, Anita. Just as the train passed me. Hopefully, she heard me. And she knows who I am. I start to panic as the train whistles without stopping. The fact that this is the last train and it didn't stop does not bother me anymore. We forgot everything. Then the continuation at the page number 25. Last. The minute it took for the train to leave the station seemed like eternity. What a wonderful line. I started pacing towards the end of the platform impatiently. As soon as the train left the station, I dashed across the tracks to go talk to Anita, not caring an iota if she were even there on the platform. ഇത് മുഴുവൻ വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഐഡിയ കിട്ടും. ഞാനിത് വായിക്കാനുള്ള പ്രചോദനം തരാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് അത് വായിക്കുന്നത്. പിന്നെ അതുപോലെ പേജ് നമ്പർ 32. ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ട് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത്, എനിക്ക് ഇഷ്ടമായിട്ടുള്ള ലൈൻസാണ്. ഞാൻ അത് മുഴുവനായിട്ട് വായിക്കുന്നില്ല. അതിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഹൗ ടു ടേക്ക് റിവെഞ്ച് അതുണ്ട്, ലവ് ഉണ്ട്, റിവെഞ്ച് ഉണ്ട്, എവറിത്തിങ്, ഫിലോസഫി, എവറിത്തിങ് ഈസ് ദെയർ ഇൻ ദി ബുക്ക്. റിവെഞ്ച് ഞാൻ വായിക്കാം. റിവെഞ്ചിലുള്ളതല്ല, ഞാൻ വായിക്കാണ്. അതായത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് റിവെഞ്ച് എടുക്കുന്നത്? ഒരാളെ അടിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഹിറ്റിംഗ് ബാക്ക് അല്ല, അങ്ങനല്ല. ഇതൊരു മധുരമായ പ്രതികാരമാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അഡ്മിഷനൊക്കെ പോയിട്ട് അഡ്മിഷൻ കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ല, കുട്ടിക്ക് അഡ്മിഷൻ കൊടുക്കുന്നില്ല. കൊച്ചിനല്ലേ, മോൾക്കല്ലേ, അത് മോളുടെ കാര്യമായിരുന്നു. അഡ്മിഷൻ കിട്ടാത്ത പ്രശ്നം ആണ് വിഷയം. പക്ഷേ അത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് റിവെഞ്ച് എടുക്കുന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. പേജ് നമ്പർ 32. ഷീ റിമൂവ്ഡ് ഹെർ ഡാർക്ക് റിംഡ് തിക്ക് ഗ്ലാസസ്. പ്രിൻസിപ്പളുടെ മുമ്പിൽ ഇരിക്കുകയാണ്, പ്രിൻസിപ്പളിനോട് പിന്നെ സംസാരിക്കണം. അപ്പോൾ പ്രിൻസിപ്പൾ കാണിക്കുന്നതായി പറയും. ഷീ റിമൂവ്ഡ് ഹെർ റിംഡ് തിക്ക് ഗ്ലാസസ്. അതൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റും. പ്ലേസ്ഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഓൺ ദി ടേബിൾ ആൻഡ് ജസ്റ്റേർഡ് ഫോർ ദ. നമുക്ക് ഫീൽ ചെയ്യും ആളോട് വരാൻ വേണ്ടി പറയുന്നത്. ഗുഡ് മോർണിംഗ് മിസ്റ്റർ നായർ. Mrs. Lobo, she is the principal. Lobo started off the meeting with the parent with that sounded like a tone of consolation. Harry was standing right behind his father, awaiting admonishment, her head hanging. Let me get straight to the point. While your entire family has graduated from the prestigious school, this year looks to be an exception. There is no way I can let Harry continue on to high school here. അതിനുശേഷം റിവെഞ്ച് എടുക്കുന്നത് പേജ് നമ്പർ 36-ലാണ്. 2 hours later, seated comfortably in seat number 7A on the Shatabdi Express to Bangalore, his mother asked Harry, son, along with your certificates and your report card, did you remember to take the newspaper clippings? This is a big college admission interview after all. Of course, Mom, Harry said, peering over it with the same sense of triumph that he had when he had seen it for the first time in April. Padma fails to score. The headlines read, more than half the students failed to score 70 for the first time since inception. Lone bright star and football team captain Harry scores 98% to salvage Padma's play. ഒരു സ്വീറ്റ് റിവെഞ്ചാണ്. മുഴുവനായിട്ട് വായിക്കുമ്പോഴേ മനസ്സിലാവുള്ളൂ. അഡ്മിഷൻ കൊടുക്കാതെ ഇരുന്നിട്ട് അവസാനം അദ്ദേഹം അതിൻ്റെ വിജയിച്ച് കാണിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഒരു മനോഹരമായ ഒരു കഥയാണത്. നല്ല രസകരമായിട്ട് എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇതിൻ്റെ വരികളൊക്കെ എനിക്ക് ഓർമ്മ വരുന്നത് ചേതൻ ഭഗത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു 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 സ്വാധീനം, ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസിങ് എ ലോട്ട്. അദ്ദേഹം അതാണ് വായിക്കുന്നത് തോന്നുന്നു കൂടുതലായിട്ട്. ദെൻ പേജ് നമ്പർ 71, ഐ വോണ്ട് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ മോർ. പേജ് നമ്പർ 71, only a small line. Amma gave me her copy of Bhagavad Gita as I rushed out later that evening. Please read this, son. He is narrating about father is missing all the time, his parents. Please read this, son. I had kept it next to Amma's bed a few months ago. I don't think she actually read it. Then to page number 75. Lakshmi is in the emergency room. I will be joining her in an hour. Her parents and mine wait outside the emergency room anxiously as they have been for the last few months. 2 hours later, I was kneeling over next to Lakshmi. In her hands was Tamara, our daughter. Our little bundle of joy, obvious to the happenings around her over the last few months, was born into this world. Sometimes she was missing. The child was missing. Is it true?
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of.
She caused a lot of trouble. Then finally, when I held her for the first time, I remembered the line from Bhagavad Gita, better to live your own path imperfectly than to live another's perfectly. In that moment, it all made sense. That's a wonderful line contained in the story. Then I will just show you the page number 94. Life, that is a philosophy of author's philosophy. Life had a way of teaching lessons in the most unexpected ways, and this one was crystal clear. Sometimes persistence disguises itself as stubbornness. That is a wonderful philosophy. 94. Then 111. In a split second, yeah, that's actually Tamara was missing again. In a split second, I made up my mind. No point screaming here. I decided to run to the main gate and call Lakshmi on the way. Before I took the first step, someone clutched my pants. I took down. Papa, I was hiding under the stairs right there all along. That's wonderful. She was hiding and they were searching. And see, there are a lot of things. I am not going to read all those things. Then I will finish by reading the last line, 112. Yeah, that is the line. So that ഇത് എല്ലാവരും വാങ്ങി വായിക്കണം. നല്ലൊരു പുസ്തകമാണ്. I am not surprised because he is son of an author and artist. അപ്പോൾ കുടുംബസമേതം നല്ല രീതിയിലാണ് വരുന്നത്. ഒരു നോവൽ എഴുതണം എന്ന് ഞാൻ റിക്വസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് ഈ അധ്യക്ഷ പ്രസംഗം അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. താങ്ക് യു.
Thank you, Mr. Bashir. We will now proceed with the book release by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Member of Parliament. While Dr. Tharoor does not need an introduction, I will still try to do my best. Dr. Tharoor is an Indian former international civil servant, diplomat, bureaucrat, politician, a noted writer and public intellectual who has been serving as a Member of Parliament for THIRUVANANTHAPURAM for the last 15 years. His literary contributions are marked by a prolific versatility, ranging from critically acclaimed novels like the great Indian novel with 40+ reprints to the mega bestseller, The Era of Darkness, that stirred the world's perspective on India's history. Dr. Tharoor, I request you to kindly release the book, and I request Mr. Jay Kumar to accept the book. Now I request Dr. Tharoor to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. I think our distinguished chair, Mr. M. Bashir, my good friend and eminent writer and poet K. Jayakumar, Ms. Sumita Datta, and of course Jaydeep, Lakshmi and Tamara. Dear friends, it's a great pleasure to be with you all today to release this book, and I must say that I will not do as thorough a job as our president has done in going into the intricacies of the volume and of the illustrations. I must say that he did a marvelous job, and Tamara, I think you had the experience now of seeing what critics can do to creative works. You will find that things you perhaps had not imagined when you were drawing have suddenly come out as possibilities, and that too is part of the joy of criticism and of commentary on other people's works. So take it in stride and enjoy it. I do want to say, though, that these stories are most intriguing. I left the preface till last. I read the stories before reading the preface by the author. And while reading, it was only through reading that it really dawned on me that this is essentially very autobiographical, because it's very clear you had the same characters, they seem to have the same relationship, the same names, they seem to be leading a consistent life. So I realized, my God, these are all slices from the author's life. And when I read the preface, I was indeed able to confirm that, because he confesses at one point in the preface, please be prepared to embark on many a journey that traverses the terrains of my life, my memory, the crossroads of my upbringing, my surroundings, and the intricate dance of my life's serendipities and synchronicities, all of which converge to the point where each story ends. Now, the thing about that is, it's always wise when writing autobiographical fiction to always convey that you fictionalize some of those things. Otherwise, for example, the extensive accounts of recreational drug use would not be particularly wise to publish in India, where the police could wake up and decide to invite you into their custody. So I say that with a smile, but at the same time, you better say, I think, that some of the elements in the story are suitably fictionalized. Secondly, as far as the stories are concerned, in some ways, I rather wish the preface hadn't revealed that. I think it would have been more enjoyable to discover through the stories that they were perhaps thinly fictionalized experiences of life or figments of one's own experience. And I say that because the stories are interesting, and what sustains them is wondering where the author's imagination will take you. You realize that they're not stories that are, shall we say, distant from reality, because in fact you don't, very few of the stories, pack a punch in terms of a surprise ending or a twist in the tale or whatever. Some do, but most of them essentially are capturing aspects of the author's experience and imagination in a way that's very well written, and that conveys the experience with some precision. But the problem with that is that unless the reader is already curious about your life, it seems to me the risk is that they will not read the stories with the same engagement as if they were experiences of fiction. So in some ways, perhaps the preface, I'm very glad I read the preface later and not at the beginning, because if I'd already read that essentially I was just reading slices of the life of somebody I didn't know, I don't know if I would have approached the stories in quite the same spirit. So that's, again, just a friendly observation. But there are a few very interesting things worth mentioning to the audience here. I won't go into the individual stories or the specific details, but rather the broad themes that occurred to me when looking at it. There's, I think, what comes across in many ways is indeed an insight into the life of the Indian version of sort of Davos man, somebody who's born here, studied abroad, worked in India, worked abroad, traverses continents with ease. The friendships and the characters in the book are all people from equally cosmopolitan backgrounds and experiences. And coming across with this, I think, is something of the entrepreneurial spirit that the author obviously is part of his own professional life, and that a lot of the author's friends clearly have functioned in that. He himself has a background in management and engineering, a professional career as an entrepreneur and investor, and I think one of the characteristics of that entrepreneurial spirit is the inclination towards pushing boundaries and expanding one's own opportunities and horizons, and that's something which I was very pleased to see as a common theme through most of the stories. Another theme that I would identify is that of individual growth and transformation, which are key elements in many of these stories. That is that the characters, and these now turn out to be essentially real people in his life, have all, in one way or the other, in the course of these stories, undergone personal growth, self-discovery, or some sort of transformation. They grapple with internal conflicts, they make difficult decisions, sometimes wrong decisions, and they evolve as individuals. And similarly, and perhaps all of these are connected in some ways, overcoming challenges is a recurring theme. Characters face obstacles, whether they're personal or societal or circumstantial, or simply really governed by luck or misfortune, and they strive to overcome them. And this, I think, is part of the complex experience of life that most of us, at some point or the other, will have to undergo. And the characters here face these challenges. Sometimes they overcome them, sometimes they don't overcome them. There's a story which would have been funny, but it's actually rather sad, when some friends decide to misappropriate somebody else's brand new car, and in the middle of the night, clearly not entirely in a sober state, they decide to roll it down a hill into a lake, not realizing that the lake had frozen over and that it was going to be perched there in the morning, waiting for the police to find out. Now, the image is quite funny when you think about it, when you think of the trouble they got into with the authorities and then with their own friend. It's not exactly a happy ending. And And I would say that at the same time, there is, in some ways, an examination in each of the stories of the values and principles that shape our core humanity. As Indians, as human beings, as men and women, I find relationships and the importance of human connections a very important theme in most of the stories. The closing story is all about friendships, acquired, sustained, not sustained but recurrent. And the relationships in the book, whether romantic, husband, wife, father, daughter, friends, familial relationships, all of this provides an opportunity to navigate the complexities, joys, and challenges of human connections. And I would say that in many, many ways, there is a subtle point about the influence of social expectations and norms in the stories, in various contexts and various aspects of the life, because some of the characters may conform to or challenge societal expectations, especially concerning some of their own personal choices in life and work and identity and so on. Cultural expectations, parental expectations in families, all of these things are very much there. And ultimately, as is often the case whenever anyone sits down to write stories, whether about their lives or about imagined lives, the book often does involve an attempt to grapple with issues of personal growth, questions of identity and self-discovery, which every one of us goes through in life, but not all of us have either the reflective capacity or the vocabulary to put down in a compelling and interesting way. And I would say that in many ways, the ways in which the characters in the book, very often the narrator himself, who now turns out to be the author, grapple with questions of identity, belonging, and purpose. This and leading eventually to self-realizations. All the stories are essentially about realizing things in life, including choices made and not made, that the author has come up with, and I think again echoes what the kind of journey that most of us will all, I think, undertake in our own lives, and love plays a nice and important role in the author's life, whether it's love for his wife and vice versa, love for his daughter and vice versa, love for his parents. There is definitely an entire recurrence of that emotional feeling that comes across right now. And of course, a lot of reflecting on experiences, memories, and events. Now, I think reading the book and then reading the preface, I realized what an interesting person the author is, because he seems to reflect on his own life much more than most of us have time for or allow ourselves to do.
കാരണം വാങ്ങിയിട്ടല്ലേ ഉള്ളൂ. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ വായിക്കുന്നത് അതൊരു തരം അത് നാടകത്തിലൊരു അഭിനയം പോലെ ഇരിക്കും. അതുകൊണ്ട് വേണ്ട, ഞാനിപ്പോൾ കാണുന്നതേ ഉള്ളൂ. സോ ലിറ്ററലി ഐ ഹാവ് സീൻ ദ ബുക്ക് ഓൺലി നൗ, ഓൾദോ ഹി ഹാസ് സെൻഡ് മീ ബൈ ഇമെയിൽ ആൻഡ് ഓൾ ദാറ്റ്. ഐ ഡിഡ്ന്റ് ഓപ്പൺ ഇറ്റ്, ടു ബി ഫ്രാങ്ക്. സത്യമേവ ജയതയാണല്ലോ, ഞാൻ വായിച്ചില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഐ ഹാവ് കോട്ട് അപ്പ് ആഫ്റ്റർ കമ്മിങ് ഹിയർ. ഐ ഹാവ് സീൻ ദ ബുക്ക്. ഐ ഷുഡ് താങ്ക് യു ദി പബ്ലിഷർ ബിഫോർ ഐ ഫർഗെറ്റ് ഫോർ ബ്രിങ്ങിങ് ഔട്ട് എ വണ്ടർഫുൾ ബുക്ക്, വെൽ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസ്ഡ് ബുക്ക്, ആൻഡ് ഐ തിങ്ക് quite impressively produced book. So അത് കാരണം പറഞ്ഞു വരുമ്പോൾ ചിലപ്പോൾ മറന്നുപോകും. ഇതിനകത്ത് ജയദീപ് കൃഷ്ണൻ്റെ മകളുടെ ഒരു പുസ്തകം, കവിതാ പുസ്തകം നമ്മൾ കുറച്ചു കാലത്തിന് മുമ്പ് പ്രകാശിപ്പിച്ചു എന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ ഓർമ്മ, നമ്മുടെ മാസ്കറ്റ് ഹോട്ടലിൽ വെച്ചിട്ട്. അന്ന് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ഇല്ലെന്ന് എനിക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞുകൂടാ. കുഞ്ഞികൃഷ്ണൻ്റെ രാഗിണിയുടെയും മക്കളും ചെറുമക്കളും ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ആയില്ലെങ്കിലേ അത്ഭുതമുള്ളൂ. കാരണം when we did not have much money to buy books in those days, ഞങ്ങളൊക്കെ അങ്ങനെ സർക്കാരിൻ്റെ ശമ്പളം കൊണ്ടൊക്കെ കുറച്ച് കഷ്ടിച്ചൊക്കെ അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ജീവിക്കുന്ന കാലത്തും കുഞ്ഞികൃഷ്ണൻ യൂസ് ടു സ്പെൻഡ് ഐ തിങ്ക് അറൗണ്ട് മിനിമം 30% ഓഫ് ഹിസ് ഏർണിങ്സ് ഓൺ ബുക്സ്. രാഗിണി അതിനെ സ്നേഹപൂർവ്വം അത് പ്രതികരിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവും എന്നുള്ള കാര്യത്തിൽ സംശയമില്ല. സോ എഗൻസ്റ്റ് ഓൾ ഓഡ്സ്, കുഞ്ഞികൃഷ്ണൻ ഈസ് എ ലവർ ഓഫ് ബുക്സ്, ആൻഡ് ഹിസ് ബുക്ക് കളക്ഷൻ ഷുഡ് ബി എ റിമാർക്കബിൾ കളക്ഷൻ. ഒരുപാട് പുസ്തകങ്ങളുണ്ടാവും ഓഫ് ഓൾ ജോണേഴ്സ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് അത്തരത്തിലൊരു വീട്ടിൽ വന്ന കുട്ടികൾ എഴുത്തുകാരായില്ലെങ്കിലേ അത്ഭുതമുള്ളൂ. പിന്നെ വേറൊരു കാര്യം ജയദീപിനോട് പറയേണ്ടതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, യു ആർ നോട്ട് എഴുത്തുകാരനായിട്ടല്ല നമ്മൾ അമേരിക്കയിൽ പോയതോ പഠിച്ചതോ ഒന്നുമല്ല. യു ആർ ഓൺ ദി സൈഡ് ഓഫ് ടെക്നോളജി. പക്ഷേ ടൈം കംസ് വെയർ നമ്മൾ ആർജിച്ച സംസ്കാരം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ അത് ഉണ്ട് എങ്കിൽ, വിച്ച് യുവർ പേരൻസ് ഹാവ് പ്ലാന്റഡ് ഇൻ യു, ഇറ്റ് വിൽ സർഫസ് അറ്റ് ദ അപ്രോപ്രിയേറ്റ് ടൈം. You also may not have ever thought that you will ever write short stories. It was never in your frame of things. But then writing or literature, there is a truth of literature. If it has to come out, it will manifest at the appropriate time. I think that is the truth. അതുകൊണ്ടാണല്ലോ എഴുത്തുകാരെ ഇങ്ങനെ കുറച്ച് നമുക്കൊരു അഹങ്കാരത്തിൻ്റെ കാര്യം എന്താണ്, because there is something divine about it. It will come out. It has to. അതുകൊണ്ട് കുഞ്ഞികൃഷ്ണൻ്റെ വീട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് വന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടി എഴുത്തുകാരനായതിൽ എനിക്ക് അത്ഭുതമില്ല. Having seen him as a young boy, I have come to your house several times, as both of you. So I feel in a way very happy that he has evolved into a brilliant person, a successful person, and now a writer. Of course, his daughter has shown you the way. I am sure she must have enticed you into the world of writing by the kind of limelight she gets, when she writes poetry. I am sure the ego in you, or the അവൾക്ക് ഇത്രയൊക്കെ എനിക്ക് എഴുതാൻ സാധിക്കും എന്ന് അച്ഛന് തോന്നിയിട്ടുണ്ടാവും എന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുകയാണ്. എനിവേ, ഗുഡ് ദാറ്റ് the urge to write has really manifested, and it is no wonder that the first collection of stories will have to be thinly veiled autobiographical stories. അതിനകത്ത് തെറ്റൊന്നുമില്ല. All writers start with their autobiography. But you did not write about autobiography, but you have created stories out of life situations by adding or deducting whatever is problematic. So that is wonderful way to start the career of a writer. Actually, that is what we discover, the influence of our parents sooner than later in our life, and that is the moment of our real growth as a writer. എനിക്ക് പുസ്തകത്തിനെ പറ്റി ഒരുപാടൊന്നും പറയാനില്ല. പക്ഷേ പറയേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങൾ എന്തെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, അദ്ദേഹം ഇവിടെ പഠിച്ചു, ബാംഗ്ലൂർ പഠിച്ചു, പിന്നെ അമേരിക്കയിൽ പോയി. Now he has set up his life in America, living in different states and cities. അപ്പോൾ അവിടെ എല്ലാം പോകുമ്പോൾ what is the trigger of these stories? I'm just thinking, ഈ കഥ എഴുതാതെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ജീവിക്കാം അല്ലേ? പക്ഷേ എഴുതാതിരിക്കാൻ വയ്യ എന്നുള്ള നിലയ്ക്ക് ഒരു ഇമോഷണൽ ലൈഫ്, ദർ ഇസ് എ സബ്സ്ട്രേറ്റ ഓഫ് അവർ ലൈഫ് വെയർ ഇമോഷൻസ് കീപ് പ്ലേയിങ്. നമ്മുടെ സാധാരണ urban ലൈഫിൽ we do not have sufficient time to attend to those emotional conflicts that are going on in our life because we are in a hurry. Only a genuine writer will pause and reflect on that emotional subterranean. I think that is what you have done. Without your understanding that, you are trapped into that emotional life. Our emotional landscape എല്ലാവർക്കും ഉണ്ട്. ചിലർക്കത് ആവിഷ്കരിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും. You have acquired that gift, and that is why your life suddenly becomes a sort of a series of stories. You suddenly think that your life has wonderful stories. സാധാരണ ചെക്കിക്ക് അതിന് സമയമില്ല. Nor is he inclined, nor has many of them that kind of a culture to dig it up. I think that is a wonderful thing. Now that you have discovered that art, you will now transcend the autobiographical obsession and now look at life around with different set of eyes. That is where your real writer in you is going to bloom എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. As a writer of so many years, I have been in the field of literature for so many years. So എനിക്ക് അത് പറയാൻ പറ്റും. നമ്മൾ തന്നെയാണ് നമ്മുടെ പ്രധാന നായകൻ. കുറച്ച് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കും നമ്മളെക്കാളും ട്രോമ അനുഭവിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള എത്ര പേരുണ്ട്. ലെറ്റ് മീ ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് ദോസ് ലൈഫ്സ്. ആൻഡ് നമ്മുടെ ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു ട്രാൻസിസ്റ്റർ റേഡിയോയിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് മെസ്സേജുകൾ വരുന്നത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇമ്പൾസ് വരുന്നത്? ദർ ഇസ് എ ട്രാൻസിസ്റ്റർ ഇൻ ഇറ്റ്, isn't it? So it can receive signals. So a stage comes in our lives when we receive signals. As a writer, you receive signals. പണ്ട് മാത്യു ആർണോൾഡ് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ the still sad music of humanity, you will start hearing it. It's all in the air. Some people can hear it, some people cannot. Artists can hear it, others cannot. ആ അർത്ഥത്തിൽ this is the beginning of a long journey എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുന്നത്. Journey inward, a journey outward, a journey into the zones of conflict in human lives. So അതുകൊണ്ട് ആത്മകഥാപരമായ കഥകൾ മോശമാണെന്നല്ല. That is the way we begin, because that is the stories we know intimately. Relationships. And one thing which comes out of these stories is that an Indian boy who goes and settles abroad, invariably he undergoes the kind of emotional and cultural conflict. Some people are not aware of it, you are aware of it. That itself is a great discovery, that this kind of emotional, cultural conflicts. പക്ഷെ നമ്മളതിലേക്ക് അതിജീവിക്കും. പക്ഷെ അതിജീവിക്കുമ്പോഴും അത് നമ്മളിൽ അവശേഷിപ്പിച്ചിട്ട് പോയി അതാണ് കഥകളായിട്ട് രൂപാന്തരപ്പെടുന്നത്. ഇഫ് യു ലുക്ക്, ഒരു മാഗ്നിഫൈങ് ഗ്ലാസ് വെച്ച് ഇനി നോക്കിയാലും ഇനിയും കഥകൾ അവിടെ കിടപ്പുണ്ട്. ചിലതൊക്കെ പിന്നെ പുറത്ത് പറയണ്ടെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള കഥകളുണ്ടാവും. അതുമൊക്കെ പറയാം, അതുമെല്ലാം പറയണം. Thickly veiled, not thinly veiled, thickly veiled. Thickly veiled stories. They'll be wonderful stories. Anyway, about all our experiences that way are very valuable. It all depends how you narrate them, how you present them. I think you have the knack of doing that, because സേതു വളരെ ഭംഗിയായിട്ട് ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷനിൽ പറയുന്നുണ്ട് ഷോർട്ട് സ്റ്റോറിയും നോവലുമായിട്ടുള്ള വ്യത്യാസം. ഷോർട്ട് സ്റ്റോറി is a very intense kind of thing. Writing a short story is more difficult than writing a novel in a sense. In the sense, there is a lot of intensity that is called for, craft that is called for. You cannot afford even one sentence or one description which is a misfit there. Novel പിന്നെ ഇത്രയൊക്കെ ആവാം, അങ്ങനെയല്ല. Short story has to be intense. It has to be chiseled. As a techie, I'm sure you're not used to hyperboles and exaggerations. That is one good thing. When techies become writers, I think there will be economy of words. Unlike somebody like me who studies literature, we are sort of, carried away by wonderful descriptions and all that. Techies are to the point. We keep up that, and I'm sure you will be able to write much. ഇത് നല്ലതല്ലെന്നല്ല, ഇതിലും വളരെ വലിയ കഥകളും നോവലുകളുമായിട്ട് സാഹിത്യത്തിൻ്റെ ലോകത്ത് നിൽക്കണം എന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായം. That will be a great service you do to your father, because he wanted all of you to sort of learn literature and read more and more and understand life. So അതാണ് വിതച്ചത് കൊയ്യുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ കുഞ്ഞികൃഷ്ണൻ വിതച്ചതാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ കൊയ്യുന്നത് എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. So all the money that you spend on your books, it's all worth it. അത് അന്ന് എനിക്കറിയാം, നമ്മളൊക്കെ കയ്യിൽ കാശില്ലാത്ത കാലത്താണ് ഈ പുസ്തകം വാങ്ങിക്കുന്നത് കേട്ടോ. ക്രെഡിറ്റ് കാർഡ് വെച്ചും, അന്ന് ഡെബിറ്റ് കാർഡും ഇല്ല കേട്ടോ, ക്രെഡിറ്റ് കാർഡ് വെച്ചിട്ടാണ് പുസ്തകം വാങ്ങുന്നത്. അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ വാങ്ങിയത് നന്നായി, കാരണം വി ഹാവ് ഗിവൺ എ ന്യൂ ഡയമെൻഷൻ, wonderful opportunity which is basically a home get together, and I thank you for giving me opportunity, and write more, look at life with more intensity, and I'm sure you'll be able to come out with great literature. Thank you very much.
I invite Tamara to present the mementos. Tamara has recently ventured into the literary world with a debut poetry book, Undiscovered. Earlier, a singer and an artist, having done all the illustrations in the book Unfinished. Tamara, I request you to provide this to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Mr. K. Jayakumar. A. Bashir. To Sumita Datta. To Jaideep Krishnan. To Sagara. And I request Jaideep Krishnan to present the memento to Tamara.
As the illustrator.
As the illustrator, yeah. I finally request 5 minutes more. I finally request the author Jaideep Krishnan to say the vote of thanks. As his bio states, and he is a geek and one that can have a conversation about anything in the universe, and anybody can have any conversation with him in the universe, but the only point is I don't know how much you'll understand what he's saying. It's like Dr. Shashi Tharoor has these big words. Jay also uses all the big words, and but yeah, request you to come on.
Don't say obsidian.
Standing on the shoulders of giants. Thank you so much. I wanted to start off by my life, and he said something along the lines of, especially after those last 4 talks, it's better to keep your mouth shut and prove that you're stupid than to open and prove it. Right? So I'll try not to speak a lot, but in the spirit of gratitude, big thank you to the esteemed guests on the dais, and for showing up on a Saturday evening and taking time out with everything that's going on outside this room, globally, locally. So big heartfelt gratitude to you folks. A big shout out to my father, not only for having provided the genetic material that made this happen, evidently, but also for inspiring me and pushing me, and truth be told, for filling up this room. It's not that I know most of the folks, but thank you so much for all the effort that you put in. And true to the point of successful men, there are successful and hardworking women. My mom, my wife Lakshmi, and Tamara, who made this sojourn very possible. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Sumita, for having recognized that there is the possibility of publishing this book and taking that leap forward. So thank you. And thanks for everybody here to have made it on a Saturday evening. I truly appreciate it. I do want to end on one of the lines which I think resonated as a common thread between the folks who spoke. And it's a line by Confucius, and he says, everyone leads 2 lives, and your second life begins the day you realize you have only one. I think my expedition into writing these stories was very much a reflection of that line, and with the idea that most in a midlife crisis, and you express it through literature, is why I've decided to go figure out my purpose. And this book is a precipitated version of that. But thank you so much again. Thanks for this. Thank you, Jai.
Books are available for purchase at the back, as well as modern books. I request everyone.
Stories that were very confusing about your address.
Together, and it's about 51 women role models.
The dot is with this one.
So it's basically Arthur Potter believes that a dot is a line is a dot that goes for a walk. But a line, when a dot goes for a walk, it makes a line quicker. So these are women who pave their own journeys in life. We invited 51 women on.
Is this for me?
Yes, that's for you.
So sweet of you.
I want to take a picture
I
with
have
you.
a...
I want to. Jay, you can come now. We have 3 books. And this is the book that Tamara had written. And you had written the poetry book, so do you want to take a picture?
And the illustrations obviously are again very well,
Yes.
recognize your style. But this one too? Also by you?
Yes. No, no, not that.
Thank you so much. Really, I'm glad to be meeting you. Oh, is that what you, of course, you'll be. Amazing time. So that's what gives you the time to reflect and write on it.
It's COVID actually that started the whole reflection. Yeah.